Um, Hello, guys. Hope you guys have a good day. My name is Prashant, and I have around 12 years of experience in working on the SAP Analytics space. And so that's about a quick introduction about me. And can we have a very quick round of introduction around the table?
Uh, Hi, my name is Mubin, and
Hello, Naveen.
if you want to know about my background, I was working in IT field for a while,
Mm-hmm,
uh, and not on SAP, uh,
mm-hmm.
ETL and modeling.
Perfect. So,
Yeah,
which technology in IT you have worked before?
okay. I work with this more normally in SaaS,
SaaS.
SaaS
Okay,
Enterprise Guide, SaaS
understood.
Customer Insight,
Mm-hmm,
SaaS Master Data Management.
understood. Got it.
And mostly on SQL Server and
Mm-hmm.
Oracle.
Okay, perfect.
And I think I completed a course from the uh, from BI consultant. It's almost complete uh, data modeling.
Mm-hmm, perfect.
So that's my introduction.
Thank you. Thomas, you want to go
Hey, hi
next?
Prashant.
Hello.
I'm Thomas. I'm having 9 years of ABAP experience,
Mm-hmm.
and it's mostly on the support side. So I haven't done any kind of implementations. So I've trained on HANA.
Mm-hmm.
I have no knowledge on the BI side or blockchain.
Understood. So on the ABAP, your exposure is on the ECC part of
Yeah,
ABAP?
yeah, ECC and yeah, it's mostly ECC and BA systems. That's where I
Okay.
worked on.
Okay.
We did have a BA system,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's just minor coding in the BA system.
Understood. Okay. Perfect. Who's going next? Hamza?
Hi Prashant, I'm from management side. Yeah, you can carry
Okay.
on.
Got it. Amna?
Hi,
Uh,
oh,
yeah,
it's Okay, go ahead, Hamna.
Amna. No, no. You go ahead, please.
Okay, my name is Amna. I have done an MS in economics, and after like a long time, I was thinking about going back to work. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any IT experience, but I just recently finished this SAP HANA course, and somehow working with on this side, like on computers, I kind of feel
Mm-hmm.
it's really exciting,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm looking forward for new start and a new career for myself.
Perfect. Who else is left? Molly? Okay. Sanvi? All right. Let's move on for the
Yeah,
benefit of
I'm
time.
Prashant. Molly finished HANA plus BO as
Okay.
well as FICO training.
Okay. Do they
Okay.
have any prior SAP
She
experience?
does not have.
Okay.
Sanvi, she is working as an user as a in finance,
Okay.
and also she finished FICO
Okay.
training.
Got it. Okay. Perfect. All right. So thank you for the quick introduction, and moving on for today's agenda. I hope you guys are able to see my screen.
Yeah.
Yes, I can see your screen.
All right. So in today's agenda, I'm going to give you a brief introduction. So whatever you guys are trained on SAP HANA, it comes under the analytics part or analytical wing of SAP. Okay, so today we're going to look a little bit into the history of SAP and how SAP itself evolved as a product. And you would have heard the name HANA as you have also got trained on it. Plus, we need to understand what the HANA is all about. And then we have to understand the available architecture on the SAP Analytics world, so that it gives you a holistic picture on any questions that might be coming to you during your interview time when you're applying for an SAP Analytics job, right? So whenever we say that we are so in the SAP world, when we say that you worked on HANA, it means that you should also have a very high level overview of what is possible in the SAP Analytics world, which means that you should also be familiar with the terminologies on, like BW for HANA, and then your embedded analytics and things like that. So we are not previously when SAP started with the analytics work, it was working more on silos. So if there's a BW for HANA, there was only BW before. So they call themselves as a BW consultant. But then going forward, HANA emerged, and then your embedded analytics emerged. So and it is the same people who are started working on these technologies as well. So which means that from a market point of view, they expect you to know at least what are the possibilities from an architecture perspective across these different flavors and SAP Analytics world. But then going back to SAP ECC, so I see that few of you have already have a background on SAP. This is for the others who is who got trained in the SAP for the first time in their life. So SAP, let's understand the thought process on why this product was formed and why is it so successful in the market, right? So when SAP was started from a couple of people who left IBM, when this enterprise architecture idea was presented to them, which was rejected, they came out and they started this company called SAP. And so SAP is nothing but your ERP system, where you can have an extensive planning between all various processes that is involved in your industry, and put a system and checks around it. Okay, so on a very gist, that is what SAP ERP is all about. Now if you have to look at your uh, so how did SAP evolve itself, right? So when SAP started, it started giving the process, whatever it has defined for the first 100 companies, as a free product. And what they did was, in return, they collected the process what the company has defined for themselves. Like for example, if you take a sale order process, the way a sale order process is done in a manufacturing company is different when compared to a retail company, and it would be different when compared to an oil and gas company. And even within your retail company, your Hindustan Unilever, would play it differently. Your Walmart would have a different set of configurations, etc. Right. So all those system at that point in time was not, strong enough, and everything did not have a system around it. So what SAP has done is, they had given this product for free, and then they, in return, they took the industry process that is involved from that particular company, and then they started incorporating that into the SAP system and masking out the process. Like for example, if you take your inventory management, right? Your inventory management in Toyota company, it is excellent. It is world known. And similarly, your let's say your sales process from Ford, it has its own advantage and it is very lean. So what SAP started doing is, they took the best of all these processes, and then they started applying and creating their own process of how an end-to-end system should work with all the integrations in place, right? And then they started releasing this refined product to the next 100 companies, and then took their process. So similarly, for the first 500 companies, that is how SAP has worked. And then when the final component is formed, which was having more than 300 400 companies process involved in it, and then the best of all those processes are taken together, and then the whole SAP ERP system was configured and then started selling, right? So this is how SAP has evolved. And now we hear something called as HANA, right? So we'll come back to HANA a little later. So before that, for people who have not worked on SAP, this is a very high level overview of how your SAP system works, right? Like for example, um, a customer is coming and calling to inquire about a car, and I want to, let's just make an assumption that he want to build a customized car. So we call that as a make to order in the SAP world. Okay, so in this case, so he calls the company, and then he asks for a quote, and he gives his requirement. All those requirements are connected in a system called as SAP CRM system, which is your customer relationship management system. So there, any call and any information what you get is called as a lead, and then all those leads are later converted to your opportunity quotations, etc. And then finally, when an order is approved, it comes to your SAP ERP system, which is also called as SAP ECC system. A few years back, and once that particular order is confirmed, then it blows up into its own process on and tracks how these particular lead is finally converted into a completed product towards the end of the cycle, right? So first the sale order is created, and then the purchase department will check if it has a proper inventory. If not, then they'll contact the vendor through a separate SAP system called as a supplier relationship management system. And then there would be invoicing done for the vendor, which is tightly integrated with the finance. And similarly, your sale order has to, they create a bill, and then they do a customer invoicing, which is also related to finance. And then in between, this purchasing department also will check with the current inventory what is there, and if the current inventory is already available, then the lead is sent to the manufacturing system, where the whole process triggers on itself. Sometimes the manufacturing system can also be outside a separate ERP system. We'll probably get into that a little later. And then inside the manufacturing system, you have a lot of milestone tracking which could be done, and then it goes to a quality check. And once your order is done and quality check, then it goes through a delivery and shipment cycle, which is a part of your SD, and then finally the car is delivered, right? So I've skipped many steps in between just to give an overview of the the tight integration that should happen inside the SAP ECC system for you to just to get an overview of it. So here, what we need to understand is there should be a tight integration between these modules. Like for example, whenever a sale order is created, a purchasing department should have a reference on what it is buying from the vendor. And if the sales department is not talking to the purchasing department, then they would not know what to order from the vendor. Either they will be ordering materials which is not required, or if the purchasing department is not talking to the material management team, which is the inventory, then they would be ordering material which is already present in the inventory. And when it comes to invoicing, if the finance team is not talking to each other, then your accounts are not going to be proper, right? So and imagine this, if it is going to be a 10-member team, it is something which we can talk face to face. But then in a huge industry and which is kind of global, it would be very difficult for us to manually communicate, and which is why we have these systems in place, and which is why the SAP ERP has become so successful in this, because it ensures the cross module integrations as well, and which has a complete reference, so that you cannot have a loose transactions happening anywhere. Like for example, a finance team just cannot raise a vendor invoicing, or purchasing department just cannot raise a vendor invoicing. It has to go through the invoice verification process to see if it is a valid invoice or not, so that it cuts down all the loose ends, and it ties up all the loose ends, so that there is no cheating can happen in the system, and it ensures all departments are in sync with respect to where the product is and at what stage that particular product is. And finally, the car is just delivered to the customer, and that is what the customer knows. But then there is a huge system in the back end which happens till from the call what the customer has made till the car that is delivered to him. And also post car, there is also a system called services, a module called services, where we can get into your warranty period and other things, where even those aspects are being tracked, right? So this is just a quick overview on this, and why this is more important for an analytic consultant is, whenever we are going to work for the requirement, um, the chances are that we would be directly interacting with the users, right? And in SAP there are different roles. So there are technical consultants, there are functional consultants, and there are analytics consultants. Your technical consultant are people who are going to define how these SAP ERP works, right? So where they would be involved in creating ABAP programs, where they would be involved in creating interfaces with another system, like for example, a non-SAP system or another SAP system in the same environment, or where they can create custom programs. For example, if my sale process is little different, then I would be making some enhancements to the existing thing, so where again a technical consultant would come into play. The functional consultant's role is nothing but to define how these processes are there and to make some configurations in the system, like for example, what are the pricing conditions and how the pricing conditions should look like, right? And what are the billing types that should be available for this particular business process or for this particular industry, and what are the sale order types and need sale order types, how it is linked to the different modules that we just discussed here. So that job comes into the functional consultant. And then we have the analytics consultant. So the analytic consultant is called as a techno-functional consultant, right? So the reason that this term I want to emphasize is because our interaction for the requirement gathering is going to be directly with the users. So when we say, like for example, if they say that, can you please give me a purchase order history report? Okay, so the user group is going to come and request that information to an analytics consultant, and then the analytics consultant has to figure out from where this information has to be picked up, and then how this needs to be modeled, and then it has to be given to the user for testing. And then even during the testing, you would be interacting with the end user to take it forward. Your technical consultant, the requirement would come from a functional consultant. So the technical consultant would more or less be working with the functional consultant to deliver the requirement and to take the requirement to the end stage. But whereas for us, the analytic person, the requirement can come either from a functional consultant or directly from the end user. And in predominant of the cases, it would directly come from the end user. And when that comes, like for example, if they ask about, can you show me the list of invoices where I am not paying my vendor on time, right? So this, when you hear such statements, then you should immediately know which module I should look into and which tables I should look into. The only difference between the functional consultant and the analytics consultant is the functional consultant will configure on how these process should work like, but then the analytics consultant should know what has been configured and where to look for this particular information. Like for example, the same example where we said that this is going to be a vendor overdue report. Then okay, fine. If it is a vendor overview report, then I will have to look into this table. Okay, and believe me, nobody knows all these tables by heart. So there is a way to figure out these information, and that is what we will be going through, in this particular course. And similarly, there can be cases where, I don't know if you're familiar with the keyword transaction codes or T codes. So in SAP, like for example, to create a sale order, there is something called as a T code where you enter at the top of the screen and then it takes you to that particular screen. So T code is something which calls a particular screen. Okay, just for the simplicity of understanding. When you so most of the cases, what the end user would say is, hey, you know what, I so this is the T code where I see this particular information. Can you put this information into a report and give that to me? Okay, so these are also a kind of requirement which would then come to you. So when you have such kind of information, then how to go about finding what are the tables that are involved in the backend. Predominant of these, the table knowledge, it comes through your experience in working in the SAP system. And but what remains constant is how you go out and find these information. And in the market, somewhere down the line, the analytics person, they started to not get involved in these functional aspects, and they started depending on the functional consultant to give them the requirement. So which is kind of a problem. So if I, in my project, have a function analytics consultant who says that no, it is difficult for me to derive the logic because I don't know the functional aspect of it, then that would become a problem for me. And in the market also, they would prefer a person who has a little bit of a functional background on what these modules are, on how to find out these tables and informations and then derive a logic out of it. Would be more preferred when compared to a person who just says that, what, I can only develop the module, but you should give me the complete ingredients for me to develop this particular module. So, versus A versus B, I would always choose the person who has a little bit of a functional, background, so that it would be much easier for me to put him in a role which is directly end user facing, right? So that is why this is important for us to understand why we need to know at least the basic of functional business processes, which we will obviously go through in the coming sessions, right? Next, so this what we call on a high level is called as an architecture diagram. So you see the terms as S4, and then you see eHANA and things like that. So probably you're more familiar with the Enterprise HANA and calculation views and SLTs and things like that. The other thing is, if somebody comes and tells me that I have knowledge only on BW, but I cannot work on Enterprise HANA, or I do not know what Enterprise HANA is, and I do not know what embedded analytics is, that also is a loophole, because not all the projects will have the same architecture of what is required. So you should be, at least from an architecture per se, you should be aware of how and what are the options that are available. Okay, so in many of the projects, you can see that they would have a separate BW system, and because BW, as if you track back to the history of how SAP has evolved, SAP first completed its ERP product, and then they started with the data warehousing product, which is your SAP BW system. So any intelligence that you expect out of your ERP would be available in your SAP BW system, right? So having said that, that is the first data warehousing product what SAP has delivered. Now, if you want to look at like your outstanding vendors, your your customer evaluation, if you have to do, or then if you have to look at your P&L comparison over the history, how it has performed, or any other financial statement for that matter, or if you want to do a vendor scorecard, all these kind of intelligence aspects were done on your SAP BW system. Now, with the introduction of HANA, your SAP BW system many of your clients would propose that I have all these existing solutions in my SAP BW world, and now I have to move these requirements to my Enterprise HANA world, right? So this would be a very common scenario in the market currently, where people are moving on to an Enterprise HANA system from a BW system, or they would say that I have my current BW system which is old, and now I want to go to the BW for HANA system, or I want to go to the BW on HANA system, or I want to move this to a embedded analytics system. So these words and terminologies you should understand immediately, and you should know where to put, immediately map it in the SAP Analytics architecture world. So here what you see is, you see an S4 HANA system. So we will come back to what is S4 HANA system. For now, understand that as a SAP ERP system, which it is an SAP ERP system. So from the SAP ERP system, you would have the Enterprise HANA as a different box altogether. When I say a different box, a different system altogether. And you will have an SLT or a bots configuration to extract the data into the Enterprise HANA system. And then you would be building your calculation views on top of these SLT tables, and then deliver the report through one of your reporting tools, which can be BobJ, which can be your SAP SAC system, or which can be your analysis for Office, right? So with all these churning in, what are the other flavors that are available for my for me to have a possible architecture with analytics in place, right? So with this, we come to the SAP embedded analytics system. So where we say that instead of having a separate HANA box, I would want to do my architecture, reporting architecture within my ERP box itself. Okay, so there is a different technology to do that. So that is called ABAP CDS. So these are the terminologies which you should be aware of, if not the technology, right? So and then it also gets exposed to your reporting tools and things like that. And then the third is your BW for HANA Analytics or BW on HANA Analytics, which is again, you have an SAP ERP core system, and with that you have a BW for HANA system, which is a separate box. You can either have an SLT or you can have an ODP data sources, and the modeling concept in your BW for HANA is little different. So there are BW objects which will be involved, which goes through a different layered scaled architecture, and then it can be taken to your reporting. Or you can have your SLT tables, and then you can have your calculation views also. The same technology what you studied in your Enterprise HANA can also be used within the BW for HANA box, wherein you build those calculation views on base of these tables, and then take it to the reporting, or combine these two worlds, the best of the two worlds together, and then do a hybrid modeling and take the requirement and deliver it through the reporting tools. Okay, so now coming back to our the training what you guys went. So you guys have worked on Enterprise HANA. Now let's understand what is HANA. Why did it why was there a requirement for SAP to introduce HANA in the first place? Okay, so if you read through the evolution of HANA, the requirement for HANA started with a more of a a management decision, wherein SAP wanted to capture the sales that are happening on the database aspects for the SAP system. So SAP is known to be an application server which is independent of the front end that you work on, which means it is not mandatory that you should have only in Windows installed or X version of Windows installed, or it is not required that you should have their own operating system for you to access SAP system. So what SAP says is, you use whatever Windows GUI, you would be able to access my application server through that particular system. And then the next part what they said is, they are database independent, which means that you can have Oracle, you can have DB2, you can have any other database that is there in the system, but you will still be able to access my application server, and the data, whatever you have transformed, would get converted and stored into the native database set what you have currently put in your architecture. Okay, so if you look at the SAP has an application server, and then on top there is a front end which is independent, and then you have a backend which is called as a database, which is independent. Now what SAP says, realized is most of these database sales, as long as you have SAP, you need to have a database, correct? And year on year, you have to renew your database challenge. And this is something which SAP played really, really smart, because it took them almost, so many years for them to capture the complete market, where, people were having, you know, have their complete dependency on the SAP for them to run a process in their industry, right? It is like having, you can see so many pirated versions of your Microsoft Word and Excel, right? And it would be a very, very simple task for Microsoft to put a stop to that particular practice. But then why they are still not doing it? Because um, there would be a point in time where you would need a licensed version, and at that particular point in time, Microsoft would be your preferred point, because you are not even aware of what are the other tools with which you can write and with which you can do a Excel like calculations, right? So Microsoft is subconsciously developing that dependency on you. Similarly, SAP has developed that kind of a dependency on the market, and now they see that fine, my database is something which I can cash in on. So let me try to get my database developed, right? And with that information, I think Vishal Sika and his team started with the work on HANA. Before going to HANA, there is something in the old SAP BW world. There is something called as an SAP Accelerator, which you guys might not have heard of because none of you are having a BW experience. So let's just say that BW Accelerator is nothing but data is stored in a table, and this BW Accelerator helps you to fetch the data much faster when compared to fetching data from a normal table. Okay, how it does it is going to be the base for us to understand what HANA is and why is HANA so powerful. Okay, so so BW Accelerator was the only component which was available from SAP's point of view to increase the to reduce the data reading time from a database, correct? And this also has had its limitation because it can be used only in the SAP BW system, because data fetch is predominantly happening there, and it does not had any value add to your SAP ERP system. And now when SAP decided to create its own database, which is HANA, SAP wanted to create something across all the components of SAP, right? So then they went into a market research. So let's now try to break what are the different behaviors of SAP HANA. Okay, so then you will understand why it is very famous. Okay, so you will, when you hear the word HANA, then you will immediately say it's an in-memory system, and or it is a columnar database or things like that. Okay, in previously also it is not something which SAP has invented its all these characteristics for a database. We have in-memory databases in the market even before HANA had come. We had columnar databases in the market even before HANA had come. But then why is HANA so famous, right? So there are four major components of HANA, and I will not go into the detail of how it's going to work from a technical aspect, but then I will still give you a gist so that you understand how HANA works. Okay, so there are four major components of HANA. One is your columnar database. Okay, and then I have your then you have what do you call it, your in-memory capability, and then you have your your compression factor, and then you have something called as a parallel processing, right? Now all these individual characteristics, if you look at any databases, they would at least have any one of them. Okay, so these concepts are not something new, but what SAP had done is it has eliminated the disadvantages that comes with all these individual characteristics. Okay, so let's take a simple example. Let's talk about the columnar database. Columnar database. So your row database is nothing but you like how you do a data entry in your Excel, right? You have 10 rows and you have 10 columns, and then you start entering the values into the 10 rows and 10 columns. That is how a normal database stores the information. Now, how does a columnar database store the information? So what this does is, out of these 10 columns, assume that you are going to have country as uh, as one of the columns, okay, or region as one of the columns, and you're going to call this country as US or Canada, and all these 10 transactions or 100 transactions or 1000 transactions are coming from the same country, right? So you would be entering this US and Canada 1000 times, and then it stores this information 1000 times in a traditional database, which is a row database. Now in columnar database, what it happens is it stores the unique value for a particular columnar set. So which means for this particular column country, if US and Canada is going to be the single value, then it will store only US and Canada for that particular country. If you have the next column as a serial number, which is going to keep changing for every record, then it will store all that particular information for that particular row. Similarly, if you have customer, you have vendor, so you would make you will probably have 100 vendors in your system, and you will make millions of transactions for those 100 vendors. So it does not mean that I need to store my vendor name millions of times by just repeating the same value. Instead, I would be just storing my 100 vendors in for that particular vendor column, and I would move on. And what the columnar database does is it has a backend indexing. So all these things you would not be able to see it in the system. This is something which you should understand without a visualization from the system. So what it does is it creates an index in the backend, so that whenever you pick a particular serial number, then it knows if there are suppose 10 unique customers, then it would know to which customer it need to show on that particular record, and then show that record to you. Why is this much faster? Assume that I'm querying on millions of record, and I just want to filter on one particular customer. In my previous row-based database, I would be going through millions of record, and I'll be filtering everywhere for customer C100. Okay. Now I have to go through only 100 records for me to filter on the customer C100, and the moment I filter that, then automatically the index gets triggered and all the relevant transactions are being brought into it. I see Govind, you raised hand.
Yeah. One small question. Suppose if you have 1000 records in a table, and 500 is US and next 500 is Canada, CA. So you name only US, and then how do you maintain for rest of 499? And then 500 on first record is Canada, CA, and it will go up to 1000 from 501. How will you, what is the code you maintain in between, so that it should be?
This is what you need not maintain any code. So all these are done in the backend, and it is already given to you with the HANA as a package.
Yeah, correct. I know. HANA, how does it store? Because it is a kind of a technical question to know how it compresses, how it maintains.
So there is something called as a indexing. So the HANA index would maintain, for every unique record, HANA will create its own ID. And with that particular ID, it will know which unique record to tag in, and it will bring, right? And So that is why this columnar database concept is very powerful when it comes to reporting aspects of things, because you would always query not on just 1,000 records, but millions of records together. And this indexing works two ways. It is not only one way, which means that if I pick any column and if I pick any single record from it, then it will point to me all the records that needs to be tagged along with this particular value. And that is why this columnar concept is a very powerful concept, for especially for the reporting aspect. Right now, let's come to the disadvantage of your columnar database. For you to write this data in an Excel, even if it is going to be 1 million records, it is still much faster time than for you to store individually these duplicate values and create an index in the backend for you. Okay, so the writing is always much faster to a row size table than to a columnar table. So whenever we had columnar database in the past, the writing was a big problem which SAP had to solve. So we will park this here and then we'll go to the next characteristic. Your in-memory. Your in-memory, it's nothing but a RAM, and we all know how RAM works. It brings up the whole data what we need to query onto the RAM, and if that is available to you, then within microseconds you would be able to see an output even for millions of records if you have to process them through. Else there were times in the SAP world where people had to wait for 20 minutes to 30 minutes for a report output to come, and if they gave a wrong input, then they again have to re-execute the report. And I'm just talking about the normal BobJ report what you guys have already worked on. So these tools, they are just a report front-end tool, and it all depends upon how backend works, and their performance and other things would be improved. So even the most optimized complex report can take up to 15 to 20 minutes for us to get an output from. But now the same complexity which took 15 to 20 minutes before can now give you an output within 5 to 6 microseconds. How is that possible? Because whole of the computation is now taken and is executed on RAM, so that your report output is fast. Now if you now the question is, then why can't we have RAM right now? Yes, you can have RAM right now, but then without HANA, if you just have a RAM, then your TBs of data is going to cost a fortune to get corresponding RAM hardware into your architecture, which would not give you a justification for your return of investment. Okay, so that is a problem why the in-memory database alone was not being successful. So this was the disadvantage of that. Now let's park it. Right now, the next aspect is your compression. Right, so compression is good when we but then it all depends upon what you're compressing. Right, so we've discussed 2 points in detail. One is your columnar store and another is your in memory. Okay, now the disadvantage of columnar store, what I told you is it would not be easier to write. But what is the advantage? If you look at the advantage of columnar store is, instead of storing, like let's imagine this raw in Excel. Okay, let's just visualize this with 10 records. We have 5 records with you, 5 records with Canada. Okay, and then we have 10 different transactions which is made to 2 unique customers again. So instead of, if I have to store the same way how I have to store this information in my database as a columnar database, then my country will have only 2 values, my customer will have only 2 values, and rest of the other columns will have all the relevant values what is put through. Now this in the Excel itself, when you visually look at it, you can see white spaces for the remaining 8 rows in these 2 columns. So which means that it is taking lesser space to store the data, right? So one advantage is that it is very quick in retrieving it. And why is it quick in retrieving? Because it has to go through lesser number of records, and that it translates into storing, having lesser storage space. So columnar database is very good in reducing the number of space that a database is required to store the same amount of data when compared to a row storage. Now, on top of this, now let's take compression and we apply it on the row table, and let's take compression and we apply it on the columnar table, which is going to be more effective. Obviously, the columnar table is going to be more effective because you're already having lesser space, and then on top of it, you're further compressing that particular data in what is required, right? And similarly, when it compared to row also you can do a compression, but then it cannot be that effective when compared to a columnar database, because the initial amount of data space required itself is very, very less in your columnar data space. And now let's talk about, so we can see that with the lesser space that is required, compression factor is adding more value to a columnar database. And then so your x GB of data is already reduced to x by 100 or x by 200 factor of the required space that is required, right? And now if you put this particular information onto your RAM, the RAM where you need the huge amount of RAM what is required before, now that huge amount of RAM is not required anymore, because the data is in columnar storage and it is already compressed to a very great factor. SAP has its own algorithm to achieve this huge compression. And so the amount of RAM that is required for you to store this particular information is much, much less when compared to a normal uncompressed row storage information, right? So you can see how these individual characteristic is having an advantage or solving each other's disadvantages, right? So RAM was not successful before because the volume was few. That is solved by your compression and your columnar storage. And now there is a disadvantage of row storage, where we say that we cannot write data into it easily. So for that, what SAP did is, any data that is written into the system, it would come into a row storage, and later there is an algorithm which will happen in the backend after a threshold, where these row storage is automatically converted into the column storage. And now let's look into the disadvantage of having a compression. Even if you use a WinZip in your desktop, if you want to modify a particular file, you have to unzip it. You have to make the changes in the Excel, and then again rezip it, right? So similarly, the compression also works in the same way. The core of these concepts is not going to change. So imagine uncompressing the data, making a change to a transaction just for 1 or 2 transactions, and then again recompressing the whole data again. That becomes a huge work on the servers, which probably would have destroyed the whole concept of HANA. So for this SAP, what they did is they came up with the write-only concept, which means that once the data is compressed, even if the transactions are changed, then the corresponding images of the transactions would be sent. Like, for example, I make a transaction of $100, and now I have I want to cancel those $100. Then I would send a reversal transaction of $100. So the database, when you delete that particular transaction or something, it would make a reversal image of that particular same transaction, what needs to be done, so that this would nullify itself when it is requested for. And these write-only databases also is in the form of a row storage, which would then get compressed during your compression run, and then it is converted into your columnar, and then the compression is done on it, so that your if you look at that particular transaction, the transaction would not show up because it always nullifies it, right? So SAP is the first entity where it has solved all the individual disadvantages of these important factors of a database. And HANA is the first product which has combined all these information together to give that to you. Why is this important to me? Why am I going in depth to explain you these things? Because this is going to lay the foundation for you to understand what S4 is, and understand how ECC has evolved into S4, because this knowledge is really important for you. The reason being, now we are in a phase where the ERP transformations are moving into the S4 system. Okay, so now SAP has introduced HANA. We saw why HANA is HANA, and which is why it was very successful in the market. Now what SAP did is, SAP did not immediately come and say that, you know what, from now on HANA is going to be everything. So they first started with the BW system. So they said, instead of using BW Accelerator, which was a very raw way of increasing the performance for reporting, they said, instead of that, why don't you use HANA as a database, which is called as a BW on HANA architecture. Okay, so the BW on HANA architecture is nothing but your instead of Oracle database, you just put HANA as a database, and with that only you would see, we were able to see almost 70 to 80% of performance improvement on the BW reporting, even in a very crude and bad data modeling, right? So this became successful, and then SAP then later released Enterprise HANA as a separate box, where they said that you can have, just a second, hold on please. Sorry for that. Then SAP, they realized that, okay, fine, now HANA as a database is successful, then let's create a separate Enterprise HANA box, wherein I will create my own modeling. Because having the whole point of HANA is to reduce the amount of data that you're going to store. In BW world, you have something called as a staging layer, something called as a business mart layer, something called as a multi-dimensional cube layer. All these are physically storing the information in each of the data, right? Now SAP says that, like for example, you take the sale order information. The sale order information is massaged into your business transformation layer by adding whatever business logic that is required on top of it. Again, it is stored on your multi-cube layer, and it is the same amount, same information that is being stored in the different layer to achieve the required information. Now what SAP thought was, it is good, SAP HANA as a database is working fast, but then why am I storing the same information so many times? Because at the end of the day, it is increasing my RAM space, which means it is increasing the HANA hardware that is required. So SAP came up with this Enterprise HANA, and simultaneously modified the layered scalable architecture concept in BW, where they say that you don't have to have so many layers. You can reduce the number of layers, but even after reducing the number of persistent layers, it is still physically storing the information multiple times. So SAP wanted to invent something which does not store anything physically or persistent layer unless it is really, really required. Like for example, when you do a historical trend, or when you want to take a snapshot of some information and then store it and then compare it with something else, right? And unless such kind of requirement comes, SAP does not want to store any information, because all these informations are already available with us, and we should just have to consume it virtually and do it. Which is why SAP has invented its own modeling technique called calculation views and other objects, what you would have gone through the training, wherein everything, the whole business logic is computed during the runtime, and then the data is not duplicated. So if I have say 1 TB of data, very small scale industry, if you're going to have 1 terabyte of data, then the 1 terabyte of data is going to be enough for my Enterprise HANA system also. The reason being, my virtual modeling is going to happen during the runtime, and nothing is being persisted anymore. Which is why Enterprise HANA was also very successful when it comes to your reporting. Now, after Enterprise HANA, what SAP had done is, they said, okay, fine, now Enterprise HANA is also successful. Now let me bring this particular advantage into your ERP system also. So all these invention, it took a span of more than 10 to 12 years for SAP to understand its its market. Like for example, their end thought process was always to get HANA onto ERP, but then they did not go to the market that way. They experimented it slowly. They corrected the HANA with all the other practical difficulties what the market was facing phase by phase. So when they introduced on BW for HANA, BW on HANA, they faced some issues which they corrected, and then they released Enterprise HANA where they faced some issues, and then they corrected that. And now when HANA was stable enough, SAP has gone to the big bang approach of bringing the ERP system on the HANA, which is called as S4 HANA. S4 HANA is nothing but simplified ERP, right? So, for example, if you go back to the information we spoke here, since I said that there is a huge integration between every module, and believe me, there are so many modules in SAP. If every module should have a complete integration between each other, then the RDBMS that was designed for this would be very huge. Like, for example, if you look at finance itself, you used to have separately a AP data, AR data, and then you will have a GL data, and for all these you will have a separate master data information stored, and then there is a referential integrity integrated on it, and all those. Why was all these things required to be stored in separate information? Like, for example, why can't I store the same GL data and AP data and AR data together in a single table by just adding some indication separately? Because when we write some ABAP programs to fetch information from that particular table, it would take huge time for them to process that information, because your non-HANA database can work only so much. And if you are putting such a huge pressure on your ABAP statements in an ERP system where your actual transactions are happening, then there is a possibility that those transactions could get slowed down and the system can be brought to halt. So which is why SAP has different tables for every module. So if you look at finance, there would be multiple tables. If you look at your SD, they will have huge set of tables. And then if you look at similarly your purchasing and everything. Okay, now with introduction of HANA, SAP has already established that I can query on millions of data, so I don't have to have 3 different tables. Instead, I can make my RDBMS design much leaner. So which means that my finance module will have only a few tables than what it's used to. My same thing is going to happen to my SD, my purchasing. I need not have multiple tables to store these informations. Instead, I'm going to lean my complete structure. How am I benefiting from this from an end user? Nothing, just my transactions will be faster. They do not know the huge big bang approach that is happening in the backend. All they know is now my processes are just to accommodate so many tables. SAP also had introduced certain extra processes so that the corresponding transactions are posted into certain aspects. Now all those business processes also have become leaner, and SAP now from end user, they would just experience that now the system is faster, and probably there are few simplified processes in certain aspects of SAP, but apart from that, they do not see a huge gain or a huge difference, rather. I'll put it that way. But then there is a huge big bang that is happening in the backend, where the IT team in any client would be working hard to move this enterprise ERP onto S4 HANA system, so that the users would not have any end user impact when they are working on the SAP system. And why is this possible? So now with this, what has happened is SAP has completely cut the fat on what needs to be stored in your what needs to be stored in your SAP system. And with that, again, this enables them now to do a lot of reporting directly on your S4 system. And here also you should be a little cognizant. Like for example, if I have to do historical trends and things like that, still S4 system is not the right place to do it. So that's where the reporting architecture knowledge should come into play. Like for example, if you have any immediate reporting requirement, I want to look at a customer score, or I want to look at a vendor score, or things like that, then probably that information which is really required for the business to have it in real time, then they would design it in the embedded system. Is they can have either enterprise HANA analytics architecture with an SLT, which is almost real time, where so there is still a couple of seconds or minutes lag when for the data replication to happen after the transaction is posted, for us to see that in the report. Or they would have a BW for HANA Analytics where they do the analytics outside the world. SAP is still preferring to do the analytics outside the ERP system, except for very few cases where they have enabled the embedded analytics options as well. Yes, Govind. You have a question?
Yes. Yeah. Right now, what is happening in the analytics space is we have got big data and we have got Spark on that, which is a improved version of MapReduce of earlier days. And in Spark, we have got different flavors of programming like Python, Scala, and Spark. Yes. And Spark being the fastest of all, you can do even the streaming. So given this scenario, whole world is talking about big data and Spark. If you know that you are a good BI engineer or a BI data scientist, and that is the scenario as of now in the job market. Now, I know SAP HANA is a powerful tool because it's in memory and it is competed with Oracle, and there are so many plus points. So when you come to the streaming situation, can you shed some light that how good or how comparable or how competitive you are with given to that big data and Spark? Because they being the open systems, they are fair cheaper, and also they have been already embraced by the BI world. So how would be your, what are the challenges of SAP HANA when you walk into the market street?
Got it. Fair question, right? So first, understand one thing. You have to understand how SAP has released a product when compared to any of its competitor outside. Okay, let's take Oracle for an example. If you take Oracle, SAP would immediately release a product. Oracle would immediately release a product which SAP probably will take 5 to 6 years down the line to release the same product. But then when Oracle had released the product, you would see a lot of flaws and errors that are there in the particular product, which sometimes test the patience of the end customer. And by the time Oracle refines its final product, which is going to be 4 years or 5 years down the line, SAP will release its first version of the same product, where it would have started the R&D 5 years before, and it already has the market group, market share who's using the ERP system. So it would always be an easy add-on for them to pick up that particular tool and move ahead and go on, right? So SAP will take its time to release any particular tool, and which is what also happened for HANA, and you've seen how successful it is. Now, when you talk big data and other things, big data and other aspects are still in the niche stage. Even after implementing big data and Hadoop and other things, customers are still not figuring out the complete ROI. Yes, it is giving me some information, but then how am I taking the returns out of it, right? So there is a lot of R&D which is currently happening in SAP, which is on these spaces where HANA would play a very important role going forward. And when that particular aspect of big data comes into SAP, then that would again go big bang and would take much more market share. But then if you talk about the current capabilities of HANA, how am I with sharing this information with or competing with others? HANA has a very huge capabilities. It can use R language. You can create a lot of predictive algorithms. Like I have uh, like we have predicted how a P&L of a particular company looks like from the historical trend of how the company has performed. It is just not a normal algorithm where it enables itself to learn itself based on the output that comes in. So there are a lot of capabilities on HANA where it can bring in these flavors. But then in the current SAP world and in the current market, are you expected to know more about the data science in the SAP? No, there is currently SAP is not having any data science specific tasks or workforce that are coming through. It is more into this predictive and other things. And SAP HANA as an enterprise box, it has the ability to talk to a Hadoop system. It has the ability to talk to big data systems and then collaborate that information to at the end of the day to put it into your reporting. If the huge so there are also other hybrid architectures, what we call it, where they use Hadoop and other things to process all 10 years or 20 years of information. They keep that information already ready, and then they move that information to SAP, the processed information into SAP HANA. From there, this can still be used for you to bring the intelligence into the existing data what is available. But currently, if you ask me if SAP can do the same thing what Hadoop does, no, it cannot. And probably it is not meant to. And will SAP ever bring a product which does the same thing as Hadoop does? Yes, they will, because there are currently R&D happening in that particular space. And when it comes, it's going to come strong. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, it answered. But the question is, by the time you come late, point number one, and also the license. Every time when I hear about the big data, other webinars and all, they say we are not. They immediately give a comparison to you, SAP, and the Oracle. They say our products are not that costly. That's the reason they have been worldwide accepted and popular and all that.
Exactly, right. So when you're new in the market, when you know that you do not have a customer base, obviously you would have to give them some kind of a discount for you to even start. And SAP is not does not have to work so hard for the market share, because you randomly throw a stone into any of the industry, they cannot run without an SAP right now, unless it is a very small scale industry.
Yeah.
They cannot do it. So say they already have the database in it. It is just an additional licensing which they would have to procure. And since they are an existing customer, they would always be given its own perk. So SAP knows how to capture the market in these areas. So which is why SAP has the ability to take time to release a product after releasing it. So that is also given a brand, right? So when big data had come, even now people have implemented big data, but they do not know. So they have a huge gun, but they do not know how to shoot it. So SAP is figuring out a way how they get your ROI. So your return of investment in your IT is very, very important, and that is what a big difference between your big data and the way SAP has evolved.
Yeah. So okay. Let me stop there. I don't want to drag it to that how we go and all that. But coming to the technicality issue, my question is, big data and streaming is going well really, because they claim we have got 800 clusters, we can do 4,000 petabyte of data and all that. And they even say Netflix and other things are all streaming already. They're using this one right from Uber, Lyft and all that up to Netflix also. So my question is, can this streaming and all that be that compatible?
No, see, you're talking about two different requirements altogether. See, when you're talking about your HANA can process your video analytics. So there is a video analytics and photo analytics which is possible in HANA, which is a very advanced analytics concept. But then HANA is not.
I didn't know that. Okay.
But HANA is not meant to be used for streaming and other aspects. You have much cheaper options for you to do that, right? So you would not come to HANA for that particular requirement. It is like going to a car company and asking for a ship requirement. The way HANA is going to help you is to improve your enterprise core component process, your ERP process, and then it is going to improve or enhance the ERP process with much added analytics, which was not possible before during the runtime, right? So that is the case of HANA. If you are talking about your video streaming and other things, this is nowhere coming into your enterprise core component. If it's going to touch your enterprise core component, then yes, SAP would have a future into it. If it is not touching your enterprise core component, then no. If you're talking about cloud, then yes, SAP has its cloud products which are coming up in the market because it is touching your enterprise core component. So so you should compare it in that way instead of
Okay.
directly
That's the fair answer. Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, so with that, now we have seen how so what S4 is, right? And whenever you're going to be given a particular requirement on your S4 system, so you can have these three probable questions. So even if you're applying for a job where you're expect to do only enterprise HANA modeling, questions can come to you where they say that I have a BW report and I want to convert it into enterprise modeling. So what would be your approach for that, right? So just a high level interview question. So for that, you cannot say that no, I have not, I don't know what BW is. So that's where you understand these three basic architectures. So again, these three is a very high level basic architecture. There are multiple flavors that bring on these three combinations which I have told. But if you understand these three architectures from a system point of view, it would be much easier for you to understand, and that's how you create a conversation. So whenever I interview people, I would first try to understand what is their knowledge on the architecture, depending upon the level that they are applying for. If you're a couple of years experience, then I would expect you to know some basics around architecture, when to use what and what not. And then if you say that you are a HANA trained guy, then I would go probably deeper into the HANA technical questions, right? So that is how these architecture knowledge and other things is going to help you. Similarly, you should also know functional. When I say you should know functional, you should understand what your how is your ERP configured and how to get relevant information from ERP to to take a question forward, because sometimes the functional consultant themselves will not be available for you to give or for them to clarify all your questions. And any analytics requirement cannot wait for such a long period for you to wait for a proper process person to come and explain things to you, and then you start working on the model and then you deliver. That would not probably be the case. For example, if you're working on a retail requirement and they come and tell you that, hey, can you please give me this particular report, I want to look at the product category sale ranges in region A because I want to release a new product in the coming season. So for that cannot take more than a few weeks or a month of work for you to give that particular report to them, because post which if you give that particular report, that report would be useless to them because the season would have already come and they would have probably made a judgment call to release that particular product in that particular region or not, right? So depending upon the industry, depending upon the process area that your reporting requirement comes, it would be a very added advantage if you are able to take the requirement, understand the functional specification, and then giving. The writing of the functional specification still comes under the responsibility of the functional consultant. But again, the functional consultant is not expected to detail out every single aspects of the requirement, because they expect you to have that particular conversation with the end user, and then you would know what to do when that particular requirement is thrown at you, right? So in this particular course, in these practical sessions, what you would be offered with is the same experience, where we would work through a requirement. We'll start with a simple requirement. We will then go through how to figure out how to look at this particular requirement in the ECC ERP system, because that itself is a huge ocean, and there's a lot of possibilities you would get lost. And as I told you, nobody knows. Even I do not know all the tables by heart. So there is a way to find that particular information. And obviously, we should know how to Google. So obviously, Google has all the answers. And believe me, you are not the first person who is going to face all these issues. Somebody has already faced this issue before what you're facing right now, and they have discussed these in a lot of forums, in SAP specific forums. So we should know what are the keywords that we need to search with in Google to be more efficient in using that to our best. And if Google is not giving you the answer, then where else you can look for, and then how to then talk to a end user to see whether a requirement is feasible or not, and things like that. So you will always be in a situation where you would be thrown, or not, at least 90% of the time you would be thrown a requirement which is not technically feasible, right? So how do you explain that to a user, and then give them alternative on what else could be done? So these are the flavors that we would be able to bring in this coming course, and that would really give you a real-time flavor on working in a project, which would help you to crack the interviews much easier. So with this, I have so these are the sample report list. This is just very high level list, but then there are a lot of modules and there are a lot of reports that are available. We will go through that during the execution. So now I open to questions. So I see that Govind has asked few, and yes, Govind, go ahead.
Yeah, the question is from this. Let me phrase it. Don't mistake me. I'm not asking anything to irritate you. I want to know. This is altogether a new bird in the SAP whole tree, whole system, right? This SAP Analytics, right? Which
no. It is a very old technology. So as I said, when SAP has introduced SAP ERP, they also introduced SAP data warehousing, which is called SAP BW. And previously it is called SAP BW, and now because of many other technology that has come across, we are grouping it as SAP Analytics.
Okay, but the streaming and other aspects, they are new to this SAP environment, right?
Streaming is not even part of SAP environment.
Okay. No. My question is, given this scenario, you said the functional, or what kind of a functional, what is it? Sorry.
Functional consultants?
Functional consultant, or a technical consultant, or a, what do you call it, as a
Analytics
BI consultant. But which flavor will this training going to help?
So this training is going to help on the BI consultant. So the BI consultant in the market would be, or is eventually trending towards calling themselves as an SAP Analytics consultant.
But SAP S/4HANA BI training person has already done that, right? When you complete the training, you have gone through that, right?
Yeah, you have gone through that. So you know the basic no's and how's. But do you have a real project time experience is the question here. So have you worked on a functional specification where you are able to find the solution yourself by looking into an SAP ERP system? So these are all the questions. So you can always know how to build a calculation view, but then the question is not going to come to you on how to build a calculation view in your interview. So they would say, I want to build a purchase order history report. So what would be your approach for this? Which means that the expectation is you have to know a little bit around the SAP ERP system, and then you have to talk about the tables involved and things like that. Or you would be thrown a question where I say that a user comes and gives you a certain T code, and expect a report out of it. What would be your approach to do this? Right? So they would not expect you to give you a complete detailed modeling on your modeling aspects of calculation views, but they would rather look at what is your approach to solve your end-to-end process, right from extracting the data. And extracting the data is obviously SLT is the answer, what you would say, but then what tables in SLT is what is more important to you.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
If you have more questions on how this is going to add value to you, you can probably have a discussion with Hamna. She would be able to explain you better.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from anyone?
Hey, Prashant, Thomas here.
Hey, Thomas.
I'm just trying to understand from the project that you're trying to implement over here. So it would be based on certain modules, say
Yes.
MM, SD, FI, etc. Now,
Correct. Yeah.
what are the kind of requirements that would be coming as part of this? Like, because I'm just trying to understand, because I know a bit of CDS from ABAP side, ABAP CDS. So I just want to understand where it will lead me. Like, once I know the requirement, how can I get to that, and what am I learning further from that?
Thomas, you had an ABAP experience, right? If I'm not
Yeah.
wrong. Okay, perfect. So let me tell you this, right? So ABAP CDS is primarily an analytics tool, right?
Yeah.
You would have used ABAP CDS in your ABAP programs, wherein if you're having multiple joins and things like that, you will probably create an ABAP CDS for it.
So
because
actually,
the operations are pushed.
Yeah, the thing is that in ECC we don't use CDS as such. It's only like I went through a training, so
okay.
For the S4 HANA system, we did both on the HANA system, HANA Studio, as well as on this thing,
Okay.
on the ECC also.
Uh-huh.
So I just want to know where, what would be the end result out of this.
Got it. So end result for this training you're talking about, right? Yeah. So end result of this training is we are going to focus on the enterprise HANA box, okay, where you're going to work with the calculation view. We would not be touching the other technologies. And
can you explain? Sorry, can you explain the question, please? I didn't get it, please.
The question is, what flavor and what are the modules that we would be doing a practicals on, and how this is going to help, towards the end of the session. Did I rephrase that correct, Thomas?
Yeah, so basically I am a technical consultant. So if I'm going into analytics, I want to know what kind of requirements are going to come across and how can I handle them with the existing knowledge that I know.
Got it.
So with that, how can I get it further?
Correct.
Because I don't have any functional experience as such. Like I know there are certain things in all the modules, but then I don't have that kind of experience.
Got it. Makes sense. Like for example, I will tell you, right? If you're talking about a requirement on a high level, I'll just give you a sneak peek preview of what we're going to do. We would be creating something called as a vendor scorecard. Okay. So what is a vendor scorecard? That is something where we will have to measure the vendors on their performance. What are the vendors' performance? My primary concern of vendor is whether whether is he giving me the product on time, and whether is he delivering me the quantities what I asked for, right? So if he is giving me the product on time, and if he is giving me the quantity on what I asked for, then I would assign a certain score for him, and then I would look at I will apply this particular logic throughout my purchasing information, and then I would arrive on an overall level how this particular vendor is working, right? Similarly, if now I have this vendor scorecard, but I want to see what is the price that I'm paying for this particular vendor. I'm talking about how one report can lead to another reporting requirement, right? Now I have this vendor scorecard. So if from vendor A, who is having a score of X, is it's charging me $10 for this particular material per unit, whereas the other vendor who is having a better score is probably charging me only lesser amount. So then I would go ahead and completely redesign my vendor strategy for the upcoming quarter to save cost or whatever. Or if I'm okay with this particular material is not very common, I'm okay with having a vendor who is giving to me, delayed by 2 or 3 days, but not so long. So in that case, probably if another vendor who is giving me on time is charging me more, and if some other vendor who is slightly delayed but is charging me little less, then probably I will again re-strategize that, right? So these are the end results of how your reporting requirements would evolve.
Okay, so so if I'm looking from an like from what I do usually, so I can also do that on a report, that report.
ABAP report, correct.
Yeah. So but then the UI would be totally different. Like
the UI would be totally different. The reason why this should come into your analytics system is you should always look at what is the amount of data that I'm comparing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have to, so tomorrow you are put into a requirement where I say that I have a requirement, can you please tell me whether it has to be a real-time report or not?
Okay.
Then you should look, so you should be in a position to say that no, this requirement, I think it fits into the BW system or an enterprise HANA system, or this requirement can be done in real-time reporting where I would prefer to use embedded analytics, and this is a requirement where I would probably choose a ABAP report to do it going forward, right? So these are the different flavors that you should come in.
Okay.
How
and
to choose when?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the front end, what is a front end like from an end user standpoint?
Okay. So whatever the reporting requirements, what you create on your enterprise HANA box or your embedded analytics, we have, if you look at the architecture, I've always put it as reporting tools. Okay. So these reporting tools are nothing but your BobJ stack. So like, for example, you can use something called, or we will be using something called as analysis for office, right? Or if you've already worked on BobJ, you know what Webby means. You would probably create a Webby report on top of it, and then you can see an output. Your analysis for office is nothing but a Excel add-on wherein you would connect the Excel to your what do you call it, the enterprise HANA box, and then you would be able to see the report output. And the report output functionality is also a little different. Okay, so you would be able to do a slice and dice. When I say slice and dice, in an ABAP program, if you write a report, your output is going to be in ALV, right? Yeah. Predominantly. So ALV is more of a tabular output. You would not be able to look at a summarized information. For that, you will have to go in and do your subtotals and things like that.
Yes, a tree kind of thing.
A tree kind of thing, yeah, for you to do it after the output comes. And then it also comes with a, the performance of these information reduces as and when we have, huge amount of data which needs to be analyzed, right? Similarly, the same thing. So the difference in your analysis for offices or any analytic reporting tool for the particular matter, you would be able to do a slice and dice of the report, what is given to you. So which means that you can drag and drop the columns during the runtime, where you would be able to see the report values changing accordingly as per the definitions what we have given.
Okay, so this is entirely done on a tool, the reporting tool that you are talking. So that would be
correct. Yes.
From what we have on a Fiori UI or doesn't feature any of those things. So
no, so you can also have a Fiori and other things defined for your enterprise HANA box. Like, for example, if you want to show in a Fiori tile, you want to show the YTD, year-to-date revenue or quarter-to-date revenue, then you can compute it on your HANA box, and then you can link it to your Fiori app. So Fiori is that flexible. But that is where that's going to come. You can also have a Fiori app where if you click in that particular number, then it automatically launches a reporting tool so that you can do a deep dive analysis on different characteristics with which you can drill down. So you would hear the name characteristics and key figures in the analytics world. In previously in your, if you want to compare it one-to-one to your ABAP terminologies, you can, any characteristics is a non-quantity or non-numeric entities are called as characteristics. Anything like quantity, amount, everything is called as a KPI. It's nothing but a key process indicator. Okay. So the amount, what you see in your table, that would later then be generated into your year-to-date revenue or month-to-date revenue, that becomes as a KPI. But then the base for that KPI to be built is on this key figure value, what is available in this particular table, right? So you would be having all the key figures and you will be having all the characteristics, and you would be able to drill down and drill across to give a realistic analytic value to this particular information. Because like for example, let us say that you're from a finance module, you have to do a reconciliation whenever you're doing a month-end closing, right? So when you have such kind of requirements, it is always much easier for you to have a report which is much flexible when it comes to your slice and dice, so that you can see where the actual problem is and then correspondingly close your month-end closing.
Okay.
And to your requirement, yes, we would be touching different modules, and I would also try to give a couple of scenarios which is cross module, which is very, very common in analytics.
Thanks, Prashant.
Yeah. Yes, Govind?
No, I don't have anything.
Molly,
Okay, yeah.
Molly have a question. So Molly,
Yeah, Molly.
please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Molly.
we can hear
Hello?
you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I have some question. I just joined in and I took FICO before, and then I took HANA. But it was I guess I did the architecture, all those, lectures, and we are doing some joins and all the data processing, I guess. And I was wondering, are we on the same page or I'm a little bit off?
Can you please repeat your question?
No, I'm like, if I have to go back and refresh, what do you suggest me to study? I just want to be on the same page. And, I did FICO before, so it was the ECC, and now it's the HANA. I did a couple of years ago. And I did a little practice, but I'm not sure, like, what module we're going to do.
Okay, so this
I can brush up a little bit.
Got it. Fair question. So we would be touching finance module, SD module, purchasing, and then there would also be your cross-functional requirements for you to practice on. And if we would not be just focusing on FICO, if that's your question, because from an analytics per se, you should be aware of creating reports across modules, which is going to give you a better flavor.
Okay. So, but like for learning purposes, like what would be best for me? Like if I have, some time, I could go over so that I can be, helpful in the project.
So since you already have FICO, you can probably brush up the tables that are involved in FICO, and then try to research how that has evolved in S4. If that's a kind of a reading what you've done. If you've done your FICO training a few years before the S4 had come in.
No,
then
I did in 2012 or 13. It was a long time back.
2012 or 13.
HANA I did recently, like a year and a half back.
Okay, got it. So so what you've done in 2012 or 13 is probably a lot different now in the S4 world. So probably, but the process remains the same, right? How do you post a FI document? All those processes remain the same, and that is not the core crux of this particular project. This particular project would focus on, if I get a reporting requirement to say, I want to show accounts payable outstanding and how I am effectively paying my vendors, then I should know where to go to look for or which transaction to look for to validate a particular record in my report, and I should know from which table I should look to fetch the data for this particular reporting requirement. And if there is no functional,
I have another question. Like I used HANA Studio a little bit, and then BODS, how to connect and all that. And I was wondering, are you going to use any of those, or you're going to get the SAP? What is it? Data services.
So we would be having an enterprise box separately, and then I think we will be having an SLT box added to it, so that you would be able to extract the data or you would probably be given an enterprise box with already the data replicated from the ERP system so that you can do the modeling on top of it. So we would still be using HANA Studio and the calculation views to do it. And the extraction part would be SLT and it will not be BODS. Did that answer your question, Molly? I think we lost her.
Yeah, Sanvi, do you have any question, Amna? And then we are going to end this meeting. It's already,
Yeah,
hour
I'm
and a
good.
half.
Thank you. Yeah, thank
Good.
you so much.
No question?
No.
No question. Okay, then Prashant, thank you very much. And,
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you guys. If any question, I'm still here. I can answer. Prashant, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Hamna, I have a question for you.
Just a minute.
Okay.
Hamna, I'll